She looked down at the errant acorns again. Seeing them reminded her of something her kindergarten teacher had once done in the classroom. One day, when the kids were being particularly rowdy, Mrs. Ferris warned them that Santa's elves were watching them and pointed to the heating ducts in the room. "They like to hide in there where it's warm and watch you. They take notes on who's being good and who's being bad." The news instantly had an effect on the rowdy class. Later, because the weather was tolerable, Mrs. Ferris took them outside to try and expend some of that extra energy. While they were running around the playground, Ginger found an acorn at the base of one of the trees and took it to her teacher. "Do you know what this is?" her teacher asked, smiling. "It's an elf nut." "A what?" Several children gathered around, intrigued. "Actually, it's an acorn. Elves love acorns. They cook them up into all sorts of delicious meals like acorn soup and acorn pies and acorn bread." "No way!" Braden had scoffed. He scoffed at everything. Mrs. Ferris didn't mind his rudeness. Instead, she instructed them to find as many acorns as they could find. "We'll take them inside and leave them by the vents for the elves to find. That way, they won't have to go out into the cold to search for them." "What do they taste like?" Ginger had asked. "Oh, we humans can't eat these," their teacher quickly warned. "They'd make us sick if we did. But to elves, they're like pecans or walnuts." Every student went on the hunt for any late acorns. All total, they found 5 more, which Mrs. Ferris said was plenty. "I know the elves will be grateful for your help," she praised them. The acorns were placed in a small dish and left by the heating vent. When they returned later after lunch, someone noticed 2 of the acorns were missing, and when they got back from the library, 1 more had disappeared. Of course, the following morning, when they reported to their classroom, the dish was empty. More amazing, there was a tiny wrapped gift lying on every child's seat. Each one contained a plastic ring with either a Santa, Rudolph, or a snowman on it. Ginger remembered how excited she'd been with her Rudolph one. "They're from the elves," Mrs. Ferris explained. "They're saying thank you for the acorns." They spent the rest of that day showing their rings off to each other, and from that day until they got out for the holidays, whenever the class started to get too loud or rambunctious, all Mrs. Ferris had to do was remind them that the elves were watching, and everyone calmed down. Ginger remembered her class continued to leave acorns for the elves, but once Christmas was over, the acorns remained untouched in the dish. "They went back to the North Pole," Mrs. Ferris explained. "Don't worry, they'll be back next year." Of course, the elves never showed up in any of the other teachers' classrooms, which led Ginger to believe that either Mrs. Ferris was a good friend of theirs, or it was something her teacher had made up. Of course, now she knew the truth. Regardless, it would always be a warm memory, a cherished memory, and it brought a rare smile to Ginger's face as the bus pulled up.